I didn't walk out because I was angry. I walked out because I was finally done pretending. That's how I opened the podcast episode. Just me and a mic in my garage-turned recording studio, a glass of rye on the table, and the sound of summer traffic rolling through the open window. My name is Marcus Bell. I'm 34 years old. I live in Oakland, California. And last night, I walked out of my marriage. I paused, listening to the silence in my headphones. This wasn't impulsive, I said, letting the words settle. This was overdue. Let me tell you how we got here. It was one of those exclusive tech industry networking galas, half business, half spectacle. Suits, sequins, sushi on glass trays. Helena had insisted we come together, smiling like nothing was broken between us. That alone should have tipped me off. We arrived as a unit, her hand lightly hooked around my arm like we were still in sync. But the moment we crossed into the main ballroom, she peeled off, saying she needed to get us drinks. I stood by the curved glass balcony, watching VC bros air-kiss each other's egos and influencers take selfies under cascading lights. I scrolled through my notifications just to have something to do. Then her smartwatch buzzed on the table beside her clutch. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. Just one glance. A string of messages popped up on the screen from someone named Theo. I missed last weekend. We good for Tuesday? You looked amazing tonight, even from across the room. Still thinking about you in that red dress. Come find me. Theo. Indie producer. I'd met him once. He complimented Helena's last docuseries like it was a private gift. The air changed around me. I picked up the watch, heart steady, like I'd already known. I slipped off my wedding band, cold and tight from years of denial. Dropped it into her clutch. I took the only napkin I could find and scribbled 3 words with the pen she always carried. I saw everything. That was it. No dramatic exit. No confrontation. I left through the service elevator, past the kitchen, past the waitstaff plating someone else's dream. Back in the studio, I hit pause on the recorder. Sat there a second, letting my own voice echo in my ears. I remembered the sound of her heels behind me at the gala clicking back toward the table. I remembered not turning around. That was the real end. Not the affair, not the lies. It was me choosing the quiet over the performance. Flashback. I'd met Helena 7 years ago on a college film set. She was behind the camera. I was fixing bugs in a scriptwriting app. She always said I had engineer eyes, quiet, observant, already halfway out the door if things didn't make sense. They stopped making sense a long time ago. And now I was done waiting for them to fix themselves. We met the way college stories always claim to happen, by accident, but exactly on time. I was a junior, double majoring in computer science and insomnia. Helena was a sophomore in the film program, dragging light stands across campus like she owned the sky. Hey, she called out one night, struggling with a tripod near the editing suite, you know anything about fixing corrupted audio files? I had been walking past with a sandwich in one hand and a laptop under the other. Normally, I would have kept walking. But something about the way she said it, direct, slightly annoyed, like the world should already be doing her favors, made me stop. Yeah, I replied, setting my laptop on the floor. I've got some software that might help. 10 minutes later, we were side by side, staring at a waveform that sounded like it had been recorded in a blender. I recorded the scene in the cafeteria, she muttered. Apparently that's a war zone now. She smelled like lemon shampoo and late nights. Her nails were chipped. Her voice was low, calm, serious. I was toast. That was how it started. We spent the next 3 months pulling all-nighters in the film lab, me debugging her project files, her editing scenes like her life depended on it. She was directing a short documentary about student debt and quiet desperation, and I was building a financial planning app to help kids like us stay afloat. You're not like other engineers, she said one night around 3 a.m., eyes locked on the screen as she cut between interviews. I glanced up from my code. Because I'm still awake or because I brought snacks? She smiled. Because you get it. That's when I knew. We didn't date right away. It wasn't some whirlwind romance. It was slower than that. Quieter. Late-night edits turned into shared meals. A coffee run turned into a 3-hour walk around campus. We didn't have labels. Just inside jokes. She'd roll her eyes when I got too caught up in syntax. I'd tease her for adding cinematic lens flares to interviews about FAFSA. Somewhere between the all-nighters and the shared silence, we stopped being collaborators and started being something else. By graduation, she was presenting her short film at a campus festival, and I was demoing my prototype to a local startup accelerator. We were broke, ambitious, slightly delirious, and completely hooked on each other. She leaned over after her screening, kissed me behind the auditorium, and said, "Let's make this real." I didn't hesitate. Back then, we thought the hard part was over. We had no idea what was coming. We got married 6 months after graduation. Not because we felt rushed. Not because anyone expected it. We just knew. The ceremony was small, 22 people, tops. Held in the high desert outside Joshua Tree, where the sky looked like a planetarium and the wind sounded like it had secrets to tell. We didn't bother with a DJ. Helena made a playlist. I built the wedding arch out of driftwood and copper pipes. My vows were printed on graph paper. Hers were handwritten on the back of a receipt from our first dinner at that greasy Korean taco place near campus. It was weird, homemade, unpolished, and perfect. We toasted with gas station wine and danced barefoot on the sand. Those first few years were magic. I launched the first full version of my budgeting app from a corner of our tiny apartment. Helena won an indie documentary award for a film about single mothers in Oakland. We worked long hours but always came back to each other. She'd be hunched over her laptop editing footage, and I'd bring her leftover tie and rub the back of her neck with one hand while debugging with the other. Some nights we collapsed on the couch in silence, too tired to talk, watching reruns of Parks and Rec with our legs tangled up like headphone wires. We didn't need much, just a tiny place with busted heat, enough ramen to keep us warm, and each other. Eventually, the app started gaining traction, users, then revenue. Nothing flashy, but it paid the rent and gave us enough cushion to dream a little bigger. We bought a fixer-upper in Emeryville. A 2-bedroom with cracked tile, peeling paint, and a fig tree in the backyard that Helena swore had old lady energy. We gutted it ourselves. Spent weekends covered in dust and arguments over grout colors. When we finally painted the nursery, even though we weren't trying for kids yet, it felt like setting up base camp for the future. "This'll be the lemon room," Helena said, pointing at the yellow paint swatches. "Soft but bright. And you'll be in here writing Oscar speeches," I teased. "Only if you're in the credits," she replied. Back then, our lives moved in harmony. She'd be off at a film festival in Austin, and I'd be home managing server loads, sending her clips of our cat falling off the bookshelf. When she came back, she'd bring me weird candy from airport kiosks and stories about the people she met. Painters, activists, fringe poets in oversized coats. We were different, but it worked. Felt like a duet. 2 people pulling in the same direction. 2 careers, 2 souls, 1 rhythm. And for a while, it really did feel like forever. It didn't fall apart all at once. That's what people think, but no, what really happens is slower. Softer. Like rot behind a coat of fresh paint. It started with the streaming deal. Or, more accurately, the chase. Helena had always dreamed big. But this was different. She became consumed. Pitch decks, investor calls, meetings at overpriced cafes in Soma with creative directors who wore sunglasses indoors and nodded without listening. Her phone never left her hand. Even at dinner. Especially at dinner. "Just 5 minutes," she'd say, eyes glued to a text thread. Those 5 minutes stretched into hours. At first, I didn't say anything. I figured it was a phase, another film cycle, another sprint. But it wasn't. She stopped sleeping through the night. Started waking up at 3 a.m. to scribble ideas on legal pads. She wouldn't let me read the pitch. "It's not ready," she'd say, brushing me off. Not ready or not meant for me. Intimacy changed too. It wasn't just sex, it was touch. Casual stuff. She used to rest her legs in my lap while editing. Now she sat with her knees pulled tight against her chest. Like the world might ask too much of her at any second. Our conversations shrank to logistics. "Did you take the car in? Can you grab oat milk? I'm running late." I started keeping a notebook. Something I hadn't done since college. Just a place to dump the thoughts I didn't know how to say out loud. It was mostly questions. Why do I feel lonelier next to her than I did before I knew her? If love becomes a calendar of tasks, is it still love? At what point do you admit the house is haunted, even if you built it yourself? One Thursday, I came home early from a team offsite in Marin. I had planned it. A surprise. Pick up Ty from her favorite place. Maybe watch an old doc and talk about anything other than her pitch. The house was dark. Her suitcase was gone. I called. "Babe, I told you," she said, distracted. clearly walking somewhere noisy. I'm in LA. Theo's hosting a retreat for indie creators. It came up last minute. Theo. Again. She said his name like it was normal. Like he wasn't a factor. I thought we were going to do something tonight, I said quietly. Can we talk about this later? She replied, tone clipped. I can't get into this right now. Click. That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table. 2 takeout boxes. 1 untouched. I opened my journal and wrote just 1 line. I think we're roommates who share a last name. The next morning, I booked us a weekend trip to Mendocino. A beach cabin. No Wi-Fi. Just us. I left the printout on the counter with a note. Let's reset. Just the 2 of us. She texted back 12 hours later. Sorry. Can't. Got a coffee meeting with a producer in Pasadena. Rain check? I didn't write back. But I circled the weekend in my calendar anyway just to remember the day I realized she wasn't circling back to me anymore. We were sitting in the backyard when I brought it up. The sun had just dipped behind the rooftops, leaving that golden blue sky you only get in California fall. I grilled salmon. She barely touched hers. Helena, I said gently, I think we should talk to someone. She didn't look up from her phone. Like, a therapist? Yeah, I said. A couples counselor. I think it could help. Silence. Then a laugh. Short. Dismissive. Marcus, she said, finally setting the phone down, our issues aren't that serious. Everyone's just stressed right now. I blinked. You're gone most weekends. We barely talk unless it's about groceries or bills. I don't even remember the last time you asked how I was doing. Her face shifted, tight, defensive. That's not fair, she said. I've been working my ass off trying to land this deal. It's not like I'm off at a spa. I'm building something. So am I replied. Or at least I was. But somewhere along the way we stopped building anything together. She stood up then, pacing across the patio like the conversation was some performance rehearsal she wanted out of. I don't have time for therapy. I barely have time to breathe. Then maybe that's the problem, I said softly. She turned, arms crossed. What, you think some stranger's gonna fix this? That we're just 1 hour away from happily ever after? No, I said, but I was hoping you'd at least meet me halfway. Another silence. Then, you're so dramatic lately. Honestly, Marcus, maybe you just need a hobby. That stung more than I expected. It wasn't just a refusal. It was dismissal. Mockery. Like the pain I was carrying around in my chest didn't even qualify as real. After she went inside, I sat there for a long time, watching our fig tree sway in the breeze, listening to the silence she left behind. That night, I opened a new folder on my laptop. Labeled it Exit Plan. Inside, I saved articles about intellectual property law, prenups, asset separation. I started documenting things, timelines, receipts, screenshots. Not because I wanted revenge. I just needed a path forward. I reached out to a lawyer friend under the pretense of business planning. Asked hypotheticals. Took notes. He told me something I couldn't stop thinking about. The first person to get organized usually ends up with the leverage. Over the next few weeks, I kept playing the part. I made dinner. I folded laundry. I nodded when she ranted about streamers who didn't get her vision. But at night, I read up on digital copyright filings. Created backups of my app code. Protected the only thing that still felt like mine. It wasn't a war yet. But I was learning the terrain. And this time, I wasn't going in blind. It was Helena's idea to go to the gala. You should come, she said, breezy and casual, like we still shared anything. It'll be good to show up together. United front. That phrase stuck with me. Not have fun, not spend time, but show up like we were partners in branding, not marriage. I agreed, even though everything in me said no. The venue was a rented rooftop in the financial district, glass walls, glowing sculptures, signature cocktails with pretentious names like the Auteur and Founder's Tears. Helena wore a navy velvet dress I hadn't seen before. Probably new. Probably bought for Theo. Still, I played along. Suit, tie, polite smile. I nodded at her industry friends. Pretended I hadn't memorized all the ways she'd grown distant. We made it through the first hour without incident. She introduced me as my husband, Marcus, like a polite footnote. I kept my hands folded and my face neutral. Then she leaned in. I'm gonna grab us drinks. And just like that, she disappeared into the crowd. I stood by the bar, checking the time, scrolling my phone to kill the awkwardness. That's when I saw her smartwatch sitting inside her clutch. Again. Same as the last time. Same carelessness. Same good punch. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. The screen lit up with a message. Then another. Then another. Theo, can't believe I'm stuck across the room from you. You looked unreal tonight. Still thinking about last weekend. Don't make me wait all night. For messages. All time stamped within 10 minutes of her leaving my side. The final one hit hardest. So glad we have this, even if he's here. I stared at the screen like it might rewrite itself. Like maybe I'd read it wrong. But I hadn't. I waited, feeling nothing and everything all at once. Then I reached into her clutch. Slipped off my wedding band, cool and tight against my skin. Found the no card tucked beside her lipstick. Wrote 4 words. I saw the messages. Tucked the ring inside the card. Sealed it. Dropped it into her clutch. No scene. No shouting. Just quiet. I took the elevator down alone, passing waiters in black ties and investors laughing over microbrews. The city buzzed outside, indifferent. On the walk home, I didn't cry. I didn't text her. I didn't second guess. This wasn't heartbreak. It was confirmation. Back in my apartment, our apartment, technically, I poured a drink. Sat at my desk. Opened the podcast recorder. This wasn't impulsive, I said. This was overdue. I told the whole story, raw and unedited, speaking directly to the version of myself that had held on too long. The version who kept believing it was a rough patch. A phase. A cold spell. But now, with Theo's words still burned into my brain, I knew better. She hadn't invited me to that gala out of love. She brought me because the affair had hit turbulence. I was the backup plan. The image maintenance. The placeholder. And I was done playing placeholder. I ended the episode the way I'd left the rooftop, without drama, without spectacle. Just truth. I walked out, I said, because she gave my seat away before I even stood up. I got home before midnight. Still in the same suit, tie loosened, shoes in my hand. I moved quietly like a guest in my own life. Walked straight to the bedroom. Pulled a duffel from under the bed. Started packing. 3 shirts. 2 pairs of jeans. The bare minimum of dignity. No notes. No confrontation. I left her laptop on the kitchen counter, still open to her pitch deck, Theo's name in the shared Google Drive history like a watermark. By 12:45, I was gone. I rented a short-term place across the city. 2-bedroom Airbnb above a flower shop in Temescal. Exposed brick. Quiet neighbors. Perfect for disappearing. I turned my phone off. Didn't check email. Didn't look at the Ring camera notifications from our front door. I made tea. Sat in the dark. Breathed. 2 days later, I called my parents. Told them the basics. We're separating. I'm fine. No, I don't want to talk about it right now. My mom's voice cracked a little, but she didn't push. It was the first kindness I'd felt in a long time. When I turned my phone back on Sunday night, it was like opening a pressure valve. 38 texts. Helena. Where are you? Marcus. Talk to me. You're being childish. This isn't how adults handle things. Please. You don't understand what this looks like. We can explain this. Just, please come back. Explain what? That the affair wasn't technically emotional cheating because she hadn't defined it with him yet? That I was overreacting to a few harmless texts while she played house with a producer behind my back? No. Monday morning, I met with a divorce lawyer. Her office was calm, clinical, air-conditioned like a high-end spa for broken promises. I laid it all out. Proof of infidelity. Shared business assets. Ownership of my app. Investment trail from premarital earnings. She took notes, nodding. This is clean, she said. You've been preparing. I didn't smile. Just said I had a feeling I'd need to be. We filed Tuesday. Citing misconduct. Breach of trust. Emotional abandonment. By Friday, she got the papers. That's when the new messages started. Helena. What the hell are you doing? Marcus, we can fix this. Don't blow it up. You're not being fair. But that was the problem, wasn't it? I'd been fair for too long. Later that night, I opened my podcast app. Uploaded a new episode. Didn't name names. Didn't dramatize. Just said this. When someone shows you what they think of you, believe them the first time. And if they don't care about breaking you, don't feel bad for walking away. Then I hit publish. Turned off my phone. And sat in the quiet for once without waiting for it to end. The courtroom smelled like old carpet and photocopy toner. Helena sat at the opposite table, flanked by 2 attorneys and wearing a blazer I'd never seen before. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. No jewelry. She looked like someone preparing for cross-examination, not the woman who used to dance barefoot in our kitchen to Marvin Gaye. I didn't look at her. Not once. My lawyer laid it out clearly. I had supported Helena financially through the launch of her career. Covered health insurance when she was uninsured. Took over household bills so she could travel for festivals. Postponed scaling my app twice so she could meet documentary deadlines. We showed bank statements. flight itineraries, screenshots of calendar events where she'd marked things, Marcus covers. Helena's lawyer tried to downplay it. Said I was a supportive spouse, not a business partner. Then came the messages. Not from me. From Theo. You deserve someone who gets your ambition. Don't let Marcus drag you down. One of us believes in your future. The other just maintains your past. My attorney paused before reading the last one. If he really loved you, he wouldn't mind being your stepping stone. The judge looked over his glasses. Did your client dispute this affair? Helena's lawyer shifted. My client maintains that the relationship in question was strictly emotional. I didn't laugh. I didn't flinch. I let the silence speak. When Helena took the stand, she talked about art, pressure, identity. She cried. Not for the marriage, but for the version of herself she said she'd lost in domesticity. I had to grow, she said. And Marcus stopped growing with me. But the judge didn't care about poetic metaphors. He cared about timelines, contributions, breach of trust. The ruling came fast. I kept full ownership of my app and all intellectual property. Helena had to relinquish all rights to our joint creative archive, including the footage we'd shot together for early projects. And, because her earnings had spiked in the last year and mine had slowed to support her career, she owed a settlement payout. Substantial. Her lawyer blinked. She appealed. And lost. I thought I'd feel triumphant. Vindicated. Instead, it felt like standing at the edge of a canyon where a house used to be. No satisfaction. Just silence. Just space. Helena didn't look at me as we left the building. But as I stepped onto the sidewalk, I caught a glimpse of her reflection in the glass. She looked tired. Not sad. Not angry. Just done. I walked past her without stopping. Didn't say a word. I didn't owe her that anymore. Later that night, I poured a glass of bourbon and stared at my laptop. I could have written a victory post. A thread about justice. About loyalty. But I didn't. Instead, I opened my podcast draft and spoke one line into the mic. Some endings don't feel like winning. But there's still freedom. Helena didn't disappear quietly. A few weeks after the trial, the whispers started. At first, it was indirect, people I hadn't spoken to in months suddenly liking old Instagram posts. Then came the text from an old friend in the film community. Hey man, just wanted to say I don't believe the stuff Helena's been saying. Hope you're okay. Stuff. I knew what that meant. The story she was telling? Marcus was controlling. Marcus didn't support her career. Marcus freaked out when she became more successful. According to her, I was a jealous man who couldn't handle a strong woman rising. She left out the part about Theo. The messages. The betrayal. I could have gone public. Could have posted screenshots, timelines, receipts. But I didn't. Instead, I sent a cease and desist letter through my lawyer. Simple. Firm. Cease all defamatory statements. Future violations will result in legal action. She got the message. The narrative slowed. The pity parade rerouted. Time passed. Fall bled into winter. I kept a low profile. Focused on work. Took a trip to Mendocino, the cabin I had booked for us once. This time I went alone. Watched the waves crash for hours. Listened to the wind through the cedar trees. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just breathed. Back home, I picked up my mic again. Recorded a new episode. Not for pity. Not for attention. For closure. I told the story from the beginning. Not the gossip version. Not the legal brief. Just the truth. How we met. What we built. And how I walked away when love became a performance. I didn't name her. Didn't drag her through the dirt. I just said this. Sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is walk away from the noise. From the version of love that makes you shrink. From the spotlight that only shines when you're fading. After the episode aired, I got messages. Strangers. Listeners. Other men, other women. I thought I was the only one. Thank you for saying it. This hit me harder than I expected. Validation wasn't what I needed. But it helped. It reminded me I wasn't crazy. That walking away wasn't weakness. It was survival. Helena stayed quiet after that. Theo dropped off the map. Last I heard, he was pivoting to branded content. Her latest project? Shelved. She'd posted a soft-lit photo of herself holding a journal and a chai latte with the caption, "Healing isn't linear." Maybe it wasn't. But I wasn't watching anymore. One morning, I woke up, poured coffee, and realized something. The air in my chest? It felt light. I didn't check my phone compulsively. I didn't rehearse fake conversations in my head. I didn't dread coming home. I was alone. And for the first time in a long, long time, I wasn't lonely.